What's up, everybody? It's Cam Tendo, and we have really good things happening over in the Pokemon sphere. And Pokemon Presents is happening next Monday, and I was not expecting them to announce it yesterday, being a Tuesday. Before Monday, I was expecting maybe a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, but definitely not Tuesday. That's like really weird. They normally don't announce it that far in advance. At the very least, like one day, at most 2 days, but definitely not an entire week. That's crazy. But I do appreciate that because it gives a lot of people time to clear their schedules, take the day off, request it off from work, things like that. But I did make a tweet over on Twitter, obviously, on what you guys would expect to see in a potential Pokemon Presents had it happened. I, of course, made this tweet on, I think, Sunday, and here we are on Wednesday, and I figured I would make today's video about me, talking about what you guys want to see, as well as get my own predictions out of the way. So before we move on to you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get my things out of the way so we're not repeating things. So a big elephant, or the big elephant in the room, is obviously the Scarlet and Violet DLC. What I expect to actually see? I was hopefully expecting, obviously, Kalos. There have been some rumblings about Kalos. The Riddler has been posting some things. And of course, I want to see a proper battle facility. I feel like that's the big thing a lot of people have been asking for, since like every game after Gen 3 has had a battle facility in some way, shape, or form, whether that's a frontier, a battle tower, a battle subway, the battle maison, the battle tree, things like that. So it just feels really weird that Gen 9 is again the first gen since Gen 2 to not have a proper battle facility, since there is a giant fan base that it has like a huge need for these battle facilities to test their skills and see how much they've come. And it just feels really weird that the closest thing we have to a battle facility in this game is the school tournament you can do, and you have to beat the post game just to access that. Meanwhile, in previous games, battle facilities are either unlocked in the middle of the game, or you can unlock them after you beat the game. Examples being the Battle Institute being unlocked as soon as you reach Nimbasa City. Same with the Battle Subway. As soon as you reach Nimbasa City, you're able to access those too. But then you have facilities like the Black Tower or White Tree Hollow, things like that that you unlock after you've beaten the main story. And it just feels like for this, you have the after school or the school tournament, which doesn't really scratch that itch of a proper difficulty in a Pokemon game, because the closest thing we get to hard mode in Pokemon games are battle facilities. So here's my headcanon. I feel like Nemona will be our little key to unlocking a proper battle facility, because if you guys don't know, there is code in the game for a battle from a character named Billionaire, obviously. This character seems to be related to Nemona. And as you guys know, as soon as you start the game, you get to see how rich Nemona actually is. Like, that huge house is her house. So Nemona is a very wealthy girl. It makes sense that a trainer who's obsessed with battling would have parents who would obviously will buy her whatever she wants. So maybe we unlock an island off to the coast of Paldea, and this island is like a battle resort themed area, like from Gen 6, from Oras, and we get all these little battle facilities, like a little mini battle frontier, or maybe a full-on battle frontier, who knows. But I feel like her parents would be like, hey daughter, we know you love battling, here's this island specifically made for battling that you and your friends could check out and enjoy. So maybe Nemona, comes to our house and she's like, oh my god, my parents bought me this cool island where we can battle like all the time. You want to come and visit? And then you can maybe do like all these different battle facilities, rental things like that. It just seems like the perfect setup for a character who's very obsessed with fighting, that she would want to, she seems like the person that would be really interested in battle facilities or like things like that, like a battle tower. So I feel like us getting a proper battle facility is a given. So that's one of my big things. But the obvious things that we're gonna get is answers on this third legendary turtle, dragon, crystal thing. I feel like we're finally gonna get answers on that. as well as answers on the Verizi Kobali Taraki Keldeo thing and the Entei Kun Fusion Paradox Pokemon. I feel like those are the given things we're gonna get, and some other things I'm really hoping for, and this is gonna sound really dumb to ask and request from Game Freak, but there has been rumblings on Kalos, and with Kalos, I feel like Megas should obviously come back. We definitely need Megas. I don't know why. I feel like among all the gimmicks that has a possibility of coming back, Mega seems like the easiest to implement, since there's no flashy cutscene like with Z moves, or there's no Dynamax spots or like giant things they have to include with Dynamax and Gigantamax. And Megas, among all the gimmicks they've introduced, Megas seems like the most simplistic because it's just a form change. It just feels like it's the easiest thing. That way terrestrialization and Mega Evolutions can exist in a single format, and that alongside Paradox Pokemon and terrestrialization, it feels like it'll be a really, really interesting meta, because once they add in legendaries from home and things, the meta's already going to be a mess. Let's just make it messier at this point. You know, it will add more variety to the game, and since Megas hasn't been used in competitive since Gen 6, or no, not even that, Gen 7, because Megas were available in Gen 7, which was the only other time two gimmicks were able to coexist in a single format, I feel like they can definitely pull that off, because Megas to me feels like the only gimmick that has a place that can exist anywhere without any complications, because it's just a form change. Granted, you can say Dynamax is also a form change, but this feels like the most simplest gimmick to implement in this game versus Dynamax, which will be a whole other thing, since you can't Dynamax. Like, the only reason why Dynamax was the way it was is because they couldn't make giant Pokemon actually exist in the overworld of the wild area and things like that. So they had to incorporate Dynamax spots in the game in these specific areas where you had to use the gimmick, because the actual game couldn't handle you using it in like the wild area or a random town, because realistically you would destroy that town. But with Megas, you can do it anywhere, at any time, at any place. And you could say the same for Z moves, but Z moves, I feel like it feels more traditional for that to be in Alola. Granted, Ash used it everywhere in Journeys, but that's besides the point. I feel like Megas, again, are the easiest thing to implement. So those are my big things. One other thing I could say is just customization options, maybe more Paradox Pokemon, and definitely more regional forms, since we only got 2. And another thing is that, I don't know if you guys know, but there was a scrapped Convergent Gyarados and Magikarp. So maybe we can get the true Convergent Gyarados and Magikarp, maybe a cool dragon, or a I can't think of anything else but dragon, but maybe a cool dragon Gyarados. It feels like a really cool idea to see this Convergent Gyarados show up, because I feel like since Sword and Shield's DLC gave us Galarian Slowbro and a Galarian Birds, I feel like new regional forms is a given, and since they really seem to enjoy this whole Convergent, it looks like an old Pokemon but it's actually something new type thing, I feel like this would be the perfect opportunity to introduce us into more of these Convergent Pokemon. So those are my speculations and things, so let's move on to what you guys have to say. First up, we got Sockpin1, who says, I'm hoping for a Scarlet and Violet DLC. The ending of the game felt unfinished to me, and I wonder if our character can repair the time machine and maybe go back in time or something. And yeah, I do think that in the DLC, we will definitely get proper closure to this story. Unlike Sword and Shield's DLC, where the story seemed to be something completely new, I feel like this DLC, instead of having something new, will somehow incorporate the mysteries of the Scarlet and Violet book into the main story, and that way this will perhaps be the most story-based game we've had since Sun and Moon, and even before that, Black and White. So I am really enjoying how the story of this game is shaping up to be. Next, we have Lumio's post saying Scarlet and Violet DLC, obviously Lumi. Then we have Podcast Draco, who says something very interesting. Personally, I think Austin John Plays is on to something. With the Game Boy and GBA now on Switch, we are going to see Gens 1 through 3 drop on there. We already know that we're getting the TCG game. also hoping for a stadium or Coliseum style game in the new gens. And that is very true. If you guys don't know, Austin John Plays put out a video talking about the possibility of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color Pokemon games coming to the Switch, because apparently on the Game Boy or Nintendo or SNES, those apps that you get if you become an online member, it is very, very easy with a hack switch to just replace the file of the games with a random ROM file of your choosing. And even in the video, he replaced a GBA game with Pokemon Fire Red and was even able to implement trading between two switches, both hacked. And that in itself shows very, very, very nice things that can actually happen. Because if you guys don't know, the eShop for the 3DS is closing down. And right now, that is one of the only legal ways to play Red, Blue, and Yellow and Gold, Silver, and Crystal, unless you want to pay an arm and a leg to get the cartridge and go through all those loops and holes just to be able to put Gen 1 Pokemon in the Pokemon Bank again and put that in the Pokemon Home. So them adding these games to the Switch online or even reselling them on the eShop for cheaper, or not cheaper because it'll be free on the NES, the Nintendo thing, but you know what I mean. They might just put it on the eShop, and for those people that are like, well, they wouldn't do that, you have to remember that they did re-release Fire Emblem 1 on the eShop separate from Nintendo Switch Online, and that in itself shows that if there's a market for it, people will buy it, even if it should be free to begin with. Sunset Bobby says, hopefully some Mystery Dungeon news. I'm optimistic that we're going to get a new game and not a remake. And that is another thing. On the Pokemon celebratory website thing, Spike Chunsoft is listed as a credit, and that in itself has made the entire community just go, yep, Mystery Dungeon game confirmed. If you guys know who Spike Chunsoft is, they are the developers of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, and a lot of people are really hoping for a Explorers remake or just a new game entirely. I never actually got to play the Explorers games as a kid, so if they were to remake these games, I will 100% buy that. Like, I wouldn't even resist, I would buy that. My only hope is that they add in more Pokemon, because when they remade Mystery Dungeon DX, they didn't add in any of the Pokemon that were introduced after that game's release, but they did add in Megas and Primals, which was cool in itself. But if they were to remake that, I would definitely buy it. Or if they were to just make a new game, I do know that apparently, from what I've heard, the new games aren't as well received as the older ones, and I heard that the Explorers games are considered the best games in the series. So if they were to remake an Explorers game, I would 100% buy that. Pokemon Big Sad says, I'm very excited for the next 7-star raid. They still haven't announced it yet. I'm expecting something interesting. Maybe Mewtwo, Mew, or Diancie. Plus, it should come out on a February patch, lol. No more laggy raids, hopefully. And that is another thing. 7-star raids have been really, really good for promotion. That's how we were able to get Cinderace and Greninja back, and I can definitely see them doing legendary raids, but I don't think that they'll make them catchable. I'm sure that there were some raids prior, like the Zeraora raid back in Sword and Shield, where you could defeat it, you weren't able to catch it, but you were able to get rare items from it. And I feel like they might do that with legendary raids since it was successful in Sword and Shield. But I can definitely see the game getting better with the big patch, which I feel like they will address it, but not really address it during the presents. They might be like, we're gonna introduce these really cool 7-star raids, but you're gonna have to download this patch. We're not gonna say what the patch is for because we are a very prideful company, but we will say that you need this patch to continue enjoying the game. So I can definitely see that. A Wonderful Sound says, I would love to see XD Gale of Darkness remaster, but not holding my breath. I'm also interested in a Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time remaster, Explorers of Sky remaster. I don't know why I mixed those two up, my bad. I wouldn't care too much if it was another MD game. And once again, I do see a lot of people saying that they are expecting Mystery Dungeon. I am too. Aru Loves Sushi says, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Hopefully an Explorers remake or a brand new Mystery Dungeon game. Which, again, the comment section really seems to want Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. So I am just holding my breath. I really do want it. And last but not least, Coral Blitz 96 says, it's been long due for Pokemon to have a Mushu game. I wouldn't mind a second installment of either Conquest or Pokken. A rhythm game would be nice, since Leon and Masters EX can G-Max now, a Rose Regieleki villain story is afoot, UBs and Go lead to Z moves next, and Scarlet and Violet anime news. And that is another thing, Scarlet and Violet anime is happening soon. I did hear that the Japanese Presents is longer. Maybe the anime will be a topic of discussion. I can see the mobile, and yeah, the mobile games will definitely get a spotlight. They always seem to open up with the mobile games before they move on to the big things, but I would love to see a Conquest sequel, or maybe even Pokken, since I heard that at the latest tournaments they held, Pokken has been removed from the tournaments because I guess it's just outlived its lifespan. So maybe they may introduce a second installment into the series. If they were, the Presents would seem like the best place to hype that up, since Pokken is essentially dead to both Pokemon and its player base at this point. So Pokken and Conquest I would love to see. I don't think it'll happen at this Presents, but definitely in the future. And Masters EX, I want them to add Hisuian characters. And for those that are like, they can't do that, it's like they're in the past. They brought Rainbow Rocket back, and I believe they used the same Ultra Beast shenanigans, so they can definitely bring the Hisuian characters through some weird time travel shenanigans through Hoopa or space-time distortions. Either way, I just don't want those characters to be stuck and forgotten about in Legends. I feel like a lot of those characters have really cool like dynamics with each other, and maybe seeing like a Reizu interact with the Team Galactic members, seeing Rowan and Kamado interact, just seeing like Emmett find Ingo after so long. I would just really like to see that. Even though it's non-canon fan service, it would be just really enjoyable to see these interactions happening in Masters. Masters is really good at fan service, even if it's not canon. But that is going to be it for this video. I will be live streaming the event with Ruffled on Monday, so come and check back at this channel for the stream. My name is Cam Tendo. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good one. And I'll see you guys when I see you. Bye.